Folks, welcome back. Big update in Master Duel this week. We have been reintroduced to 2022 and put back into one of the most polarizing formats in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. For people that don't know what I mean, Tearlament has finally made its way into Master Duel at full power nonetheless, with all the bells and whistles, root colors, and everything else. And oh my god, it's just as good in the TCG, but even better. This deck is insane. Whole bunch of tools that we didn't have access to in the TCG, and then now we also have access to again here in Master Duel. Cards like Sprite Elf, Fairy Tale Snow is a card that we didn't have access to before. We now have access to it in full power Ishizu tier format. That's gotta sound fair, right? The only thing to put this deck into check on releases, of course, we have all of the Ishizu cards besides Medora put to 2. That was done before. And we also have all the Tearlaments, the names that actually create things. Merly, Havness, and Sheeran all put to 2, as well as Kitkalos to 1. And Paralina to 1 too, man. They really tried to shut this thing down. Weirdly enough, would you go figure, it doesn't matter. Having cards like Kitkalos at 1 and even Paralina at 1, people are still going to find a way to abuse it. Everything is so damn strong with this deck. The one thing that would make it even better is if we had Garuda in the extra deck to be able to pair with Super Poly. But we don't. It's still a great format. I'm having a blast with it. I didn't get to enjoy this format at its peak in TCG just because I wasn't super into paper Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, but re-experiencing it in a digital manner is actually a lot of fun, man. All the games feel pretty snappy. You probably heard it before, but Tearlament is definitely one of the best formats to showcase the individual skill of a duelist, just being able to understand how chain links work, when and when not to use resources. You know, you just can't press buttons and expect things to happen, especially done in the mirror match, where if you execute even one thing incorrectly, you get majorly punished for it. Could definitely lose some games. It really relies on the endurance and the just the knowledge, quick thinking that a duelist has, especially quick thinking now because you're on a time limit. Enough about the format and the scope. Let's talk about the deck that we're piloting right now. We're piloting basically the bare bones essential of Tearlament. The one thing that I actually want to change, I changed this last time and I wasn't a fan of it. I was playing 2 Herald. I'll replace that before the list gets out here. If you stuck around, you're playing 2 Triple Tactics now. I promise the deck is better. This is the deck as it stands pretty much as I piloted it to Diamond 1. I went on like a 21 win tear, just absolutely decimating all noobs in my way. I don't think I'm the greatest Tearlament player in the game, but I definitely felt like above the curve of some other duelists. I'm really stuck on this build here. I think everything is extremely integral to the list, and you'll start to find that every card in here is a moving part. Even if you change one card in the list, chances are when you're seeing 90% of your deck in a duel, you're going to see that card. The hand trap sweep consists of 2 DD Crow, 1 Herald of Orange Light, 3 Max C, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. And if you want to consider it, Kelbeck also serves the role of a hand trap because if a card is sent from the hand or deck to your opponent's graveyard, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls, special it, and then bounce that monster. Actually comes up a lot, really integral piece in the mirror match, deciding when to use this bounce here. You can stop important cards like Abyss Dweller, and you can just bring fusions off the board so you can start clearing earlier on your turn. You know, if it's turn 2 and this sticks around, that's another material to make an Abyss Dweller early. But the 11 hand traps are all really geared towards Tearlament. Infinite Impermanence is extremely powerful. If you choose to hold the card, you can maybe deal with your opponent's Abyss Dweller if it's not backed up with Elf. Also, being able to stop your opponent's 1 Tearlament Kitkalos that they make is really huge. Can sometimes just end the turn there. DD Crow kind of serves the same purpose in stopping the Tearlament game. If your opponent activates any of the Tearlament effects, they have to use that copy of the Tearlament card, plus another Tearlament in their graveyard to be able to make fusions or start to do that. So if you Crow that one target, they all of a sudden can't make any fusion with it because the card's no longer there. DD Crow is also very important because it is a different type for Mud Dragon of the Swamp. If we have DD Crow in the graveyard, any Tearlament name that gets sent, we can just pair it with the DD Crow to be able to make Mud Dragon, which is another level 4 at a very base level, but it also has an effect where it can protect things from targeting. This is a card that I'm finding myself underutilized a lot, but I still feel like it's important. Herald's obviously really good because it's a 1. It pairs with any of your shufflers. You pitch it in the shuffler. Suddenly, on turn 2, you're not only negating and destroying a monster, but you're also putting yourself in the game by getting yourself some shufflers live without your opponent using a Kelbeck or an Yugioh to mill 10 cards out of your deck. Maxi is just Maxi. Again, it's probably one of the ultimate equalizers in this format. I feel like games where Maxi is activated and Maxi's on either side of the opponent's hand, you can get some really intense games like that. I think I have a good replay with Maxi to show you guys today. Play 1 Diviner of Herald. It's a level 2. Keep that in mind. We can reborn it off a Sprite Elf if we dump it to the graveyard with our many mills that we do per turn. We can also just normal summon it to dump a shuffler to the graveyard. makes itself a level 6. You pair it with any 4, you know, a Snow that you brought back, or a Rhino Heart chilling on the field, or any of the shufflers that maybe you brought out from your hand with their effects, and you can make an early Baron de Fleur. And there's a whole bunch of little one-ofs techs. I play Aerial because it allows me to make Winda, and it also will force out interaction when it hits the graveyard. And then Triple Tactics, obviously your opponent has to interact this format, so being able to have the option to rip a card, take a card, or draw 2, they all matter a lot. And then Super Polys, of course, is one of the big board breakers. Being able to piece out your opponent's board, use some of their monsters to make your own, can definitely swing the game. Also, Spell Speed 4, crazy good card, right? I get a lot of questions about cards, what to replace in the extra deck, and I feel like there's a lot of them you just can't. All these fusions serve a purpose. I make all of them all the time. You play Baron de Fleur because you can make it with Herald. And then the XYZs are all super important. Dweller is the game breaker. You can just start with Dweller and then get into major mills. If you hit Kelbecks and Agito's, as long as your opponent's under Dweller, it doesn't matter. Setting up a Dweller turn 1 backed up with some other disruption is easily GG for your opponent if they don't have one of the pretty much mandatory responses. If it's not under Elf, they can Infinite Permanence. Droplet is definitely going to be one of the most common ways you see it because it doesn't target. You can get under Elf. But you are sending cards from your hand to the graveyard as cost, which don't trigger any of these. Baguska is your go-to if you really don't have any plays. Baguska in Defense Pass is just as good as you would expect it to be. Time Thief for your doer is actually extremely important as an ultra rare because its effect actually detaches for effect and not cost. That means when you detach Tearlament Sheeran specifically, it will trigger the effect to be able to fuse. So, you know, if you use Sheeran to be able to summon from the hand, and you exceed it with maybe one of these level 4s here, you can detach, and then all of a sudden you're also being able to fuse with the Sheeran that you summon to the field. And then Zeus, because sometimes you're just in scenarios where you need to make the Zeus, and you do Zeus Abyss Dweller sometimes, and it just clears board. Links are all pretty good here. Alsa is good in the mirror match because it can force out your opponent's shufflers. You either target them and they're forced to use it, or they give you it. And I don't know why they'd give you it. Dark is extremely good as well. Obviously, there's a lot of Dark monsters in your deck. Plenty of times where I've stolen my opponent's Tearlament Kick Kolos, and I've used it to start my own plays. Elf is actually really good, so glad we have this card. Merly's a level 2. Keep that in mind. So you're typically going to end on a board with Elf, and either if Elf brought back your Herald to make Baron de Fleur, on your opponent's turn, it can also bring back the Diviner again to be able to dump another Shuffler, or you can bring back Merly to all of a sudden mill 3 more cards, maybe get some fuses on your opponent's turn. And then I had 1 flex spot and Unicorn's my tech there. It did come up in a game or 2, so I'm going to keep it in there. I don't know what this would be if I wanted to change. Maybe Dugaris? I haven't made Dugaris yet, so yeah. I talked a lot about the deck. Let's go into the games. Try to keep this video from being infinite minutes long. I think I've only kept 3 replays to start to show you guys, but there will be plenty of replays on the Nim channel moving forward. They're all really good, and there's a lot you can learn from one game. You would be surprised. All right, this is one of the games where you'll be able to see all the bells and whistles, right? All of the interaction you'll be able to check out in this game. We'll be able to analyze a lot and learn from it, too. So, looking at our opening hand, extremely strong, right? I do believe we are going first. I don't even remember. Let me check. Yep, we are. Okay. Obviously, Terraforming, extremely powerful to open the 1-of to get to the planet Paralino, which is also 1. A lot of the times, this can out a lot of the difficult things. If your opponent goes Baguska Pass, planet Paralino gets around it, and it also allows you to search. You see people also playing Crystal Beasts, like Emerald Tortoise, as well as the 1 trap card in Foolish Burial Goods, just to get to the field spell. I don't want to clog up my deck with some trash like Emerald Tortoise, because I'm just going to keep putting it back for my opponent. So I'd rather just play Paralino Terraforming, and, you know, continuously shuffle those back until I hit it. We're going to go Paralino, and we're going to be able to search our Sheeran. This is obviously going to be a free play here with Sheeran Pitch Keldo. See what we can get off the mills. The mills end up being a Kelbeck and another Keldo here. And this is where we have to make decisions, right? This is where you have to think on your toes. I don't know that I'm playing against the mirror match yet, but even if I'm assuming I'm playing against the mirror match, I'm pretty well insulated. A lot of people say make sure before you start hitting these Kelbecks and Agitos, the cards that mill 5 from both players' decks, you want to make sure you have a Shuffler. I do. As far as I know, my opponent does not at the moment. So if he doesn't hit it big, I'm suddenly living large with all the Shufflers, plus 5 more additional cards in the bin, and he's got nothing. If he does hit something, we're ready for it. So we are going to activate the Kelbeck, and we're going to mill an additional 5 cards. Let's see how it pays off. Wow, Gage, you milled a Tearlament's Rhino Heart, a Fairy Tale Snow, and an Instant Fusion in Max C. None of those cards are really good, right? Rhino Heart's okay, and Snow's great to have in the graveyard. But what did our opponent mill? Oh my god, absolutely everything. Instant Fusion's also in his graveyard, but he also hit a Kelbeck. He also has a Mudora now. His Herald's gone, and his Havness is now in the graveyard too that he's going to be able to trigger. From here, I have turn player priority. I want to try to be able to stick in Abyss Dweller as early possible, so being able to activate Rhino Heart here and, potentially pitch Scream will put on the threat there. Our opponent actually has a pretty good Medora here, I'm not going to lie. They can just go activate this Medora that's sitting in the graveyard, target our Rhino Heart after we do that, and then both of the Shufflers, and I'm forced to use one of mine to be able to stop his Havness, which I think I'm going to do anyways. So here we go, we're activating Rhino Heart, and he goes Chain Havness. And he also goes Chain Kelbeck. He wants to put 5 more cards in the graveyard. Understandable. I'm willing to gamble. Just as we checked our graveyard, we can check out his and see that he's doing pretty okay too. He has a Medora that he's at the ready to be able to deal with any of the other fusers that hit in my graveyard. I didn't hit any. I just hit Rhino Heart, which is technically not a fuser, but he's got to be careful because that gets me another level 4 to be able to make Abyss Dweller. It's all going to depend on the mills here. It's not out of the question to think that he'd use Medora first here to remove my Shufflers and also get rid of my Rhino Heart. That puts him pretty far ahead. I'd be forced to deal with Havness. I don't think I do, though. Let's see how this ends up. We let it resolve, okay? So we let it resolve here. First point of, interaction that really, really matters. And we're going to put 5 more in the bin here. Our opponent hits their other Shuffler in the form of Keldo, so now they have 1 of each. And then we do as well. We have Medora and Keldo. So pretty much we're trading Shufflers with our opponent here. From here, I activated, I don't even know what I used. Chainlink 1, Havness. Was that mine or his? That was his. Oh my god, bro. I'm still trying to keep up. Obviously, these Chainlinks get pretty big, but this is where he makes Winda with his fuse, right? Stacking the Chainlinks is incredibly important because sometimes you don't see these cards until they get hit with the Millers. I think he ended up hitting a Beast with his Miller, which allowed him to be able to make the option of Winda. And this really sucks for me because my Rhino Heart was already on the Chainlink and I have to summon it back. So now I've already used my 1 special summon. I can't make Dweller. I can't Super Poly him either. And I get my Rhino Heart, but there's nothing I want to send, right? It's a world of hurt. This Winda actually was really insane. Pitch the Scream from our hand, and then of course we can use the Scream effect to be able to get Sulliek. And then we decide to yugioh again because now that he's under Winda too, if he wants to get rid of his own Winda, that's fine. I'd rather pull 4 or 5 more cards out of the deck and see what more we can get into the mix. Our opponent has a Scream of their own. They decide to get the trap themselves. Look at a hand of 6 cards here. I think we know maybe 2 of them. Rhino Heart dumps the Merly. Not going to do anything. Can't use its effect. And then we dump an additional 5 off of our yugioh. At this point, our turn's pretty much over. I'm just feeding my opponent. And I don't know why. This is why I save these replays, though. It's to look back at them, right? I don't know why I milled my opponent 5. Lucky enough, I didn't hit anything. He had another Sulliek, so he can get a search, which is pretty bad for us. But I'm able to get the Sulliek myself. Now, our opponent has Sheeran, Sulliek. Things are getting scary. We decide to set Super Poly, Imperm, and Pass. That's all we can do. Again, this Winda was huge. I'm not going to lie. See what our opponent does, right? He starts with Activate Scream to be able to get an additional mill. And he goes Scream for 3, Merly for 3. So he's going to get 6 mills off the top of the deck. Keep in mind he's under Winda here too. I'm not too petrified of what he can summon. Dumps another Merly. Dumps a Shuffler and a Beast again. I decide to go Chain Medora here. I'm going to stop this fuse with the Merly. Because I think if I do that, that's ending his turn, right? If I can force him in a scenario where he has to link off this this Winda and to progress with his plays, that's already better for me. He's gotten the Winda off the board. I still have Infip. I still have Super Poly especially. Tons of reasons there. If I stop his fuse from here, it forces him to do something else. So I decide to target both of his Shufflers here. You always want to try to get all the Shufflers out of the graveyard or at least force them out. So I target a Keldo and Medora, but I hardly think that's all he has. Yeah, so I target a Keldo and a Medora, but he still has another Keldo in graveyard, and he's going to have another Keldo at the end of this interaction, depending on what he targets. So he chains his own Keldo, and he targets my Merly, but he does chain his Medora as well, and he decides to target my Snow, Keldo, as well as another name was that? Hold on. Merly, yeah. So he targets the Merly as well. He only targeted 1 Medora, though, right? So I still have a Medora in the graveyard and a Keldo by the end of this interaction. Just all really odd decisions in my eyes here. Put the 3 back, put all the names back. My Medora resolves, bluffing his Merly. He draws off of his Beast, and he fuses with nothing. Tearlament monster was shuffled back. Paralino does trigger here, and I'm able to pop a card. Again, important, it's just whenever. It's my turn, his turn, just when one goes back. So we are able to get a pop, and I do pop the Merly. He's already activated Merly's effect, remember, so it doesn't really matter that I'm popping it. He goes Special Summon Sheeran by pitching a name and then sending some. Obviously, they can't do anything because he's under Winda. That was his 1 summon. Really weird game state. I'd love to see the rest of this guy's hand because I feel like there might have been a way to play through it. Paralino pop was massive, getting the Merly off the board because that was one of his only ways linking this off to be able to continue his plays, right? Now he's stuck with a graveyard full of names, literally full of names, 1 Shuffler, and I still have 3 Shufflers in the graveyard. I'm living large, man. Our opponent goes battle phase, beat us out the frame, take the Rhino Heart, and then he goes to attack with Sheeran, and I decide to Super Poly, use both of the Sheerans into Kick Colosse. Boom, bro, Kick Colosse. Winda's already attacked, so he can't crash it back into this to be able to free up his board to make plays. And then Kick Colosse is bigger than Winda too, so it can attack over the next turn. That's the plan. We go Kick Colosse to search. Havness. In hindsight, this probably wasn't the best search. He's not going to be activating any more monster effects on the field, right? He's done. So maybe I should have gotten something else, like a Merly or something that I could just normal summon, get some additional mills off. But also you got to remember that Kick Colosse can summon from the grave. And I think I have Sheeran in there. It's not the best option. Definitely feel like I should have gotten Merly here. Definitely lead us right into our next turn after our opponent sets 3 cards. Draw for turn. It's an yugioh, the Ancient Sentinel. Obviously not the card we want to be seeing here, but we're in pretty much a stalemate here, right? I have the game on maximum lockdown. With all these shufflers, the Medoras in the graveyard, and the Keldos that he's somewhat left, he still has a Medora of his own. You got to remember that. At least I think so. But at the moment, I feel like I'm doing a lot better than him. Let's see how I play here. I decided to just go battle phase to beat the Winda, and hopefully start playing on my turn here, right? Yep. Activate the Kick Colosse. We're going to summon back the Sheeran, send the Kick Colosse, and then we're going to activate the Kick Colosse to mill 5. Any hit, right, is going to be insane. And we just hit creamy AF. I think we hit the Aerial here, and we hit the Rhino Heart plus Diviner in the graveyard. It's going to matter a lot for when we make Elf. Rhino Heart Aerial. Aerial is super cool here because it is going to force out those interactions that I was telling you about. I decided to get rid of both of his Sheerans. If he doesn't decide to shuffle back his Sheerans, he's going to just straight up lose them. That's going to cost him one of his shufflers and his only shuffler in the graveyard. And then with the Keldo, he decides to just target my Kick Colosse, Rhino Heart, and then one of his Sheerans, which is fine. He's still going to lose one of the Sheerans at the end of the interaction, but he does get rid of my Kick Colosse, so I can't make an easy Root Colosse, right? The Rhino Heart doesn't come out either, but because things were shuffled back, I'm getting the steady value with Paralino. Another pop off the board. What do we get? The Gravekeeper Trap. I think the Gravekeeper Trap is so bad. I wouldn't play this. It's cute when you can pull it off Medora every now and again, but at most points, this card is just a dead card. You also have to put Exchange of the Spirit to really get the values off of it. Well, we hit the Gravekeeper's Trap. Really wasn't going to be doing much in the first place. He doesn't even have Exchange of the Spirit in the graveyard. Haven't seen it all game. And we decide to go with our first XYZ, which is Time Thief Redoer. Obviously, in the mirror match here, you might want to consider Abyss Dweller, but he doesn't have a board that I'm contesting, and I also have, again, more shufflers than he does in the graveyard. I'm living large. Redoer is there for that exact interaction where we can detach the Sheeran and be able to activate it there. So what we do, we activate Sheeran and we'll be able to make our own Winda with the Aerial that we sent. Huge. I think we're just locking down the game from here, man, right? I had trouble obstacling Winda, and now he's going to have to obstacle Winda when it's boosted by Planet Paralino. Plus, he's got to beat 2 other shufflers in the graveyard, too. Just ain't possible. It's not going to add up, Chief. Redoer comes back. It's another 2,400 body, and it's going to be able to steal a card off the top of his deck, get more incremental value. I end up pulling a shuffler, which is actually really big. I want to kind of keep it there because I don't want to give it to him. There's no reason to use this effect anyways. He decides to go normal summon Rhino Heart, chain the Tearlament Scream to mill an additional 3 cards. I'm thinking this is the best place to infinite impermanence if he misses off his 3 mills. He changed Sulliek, where you can start to see the boards that typically look a little weak, all of a sudden end up being insane when you pair it with Sulliek. Sulliek is such a great trap card. So if you control a Tearlament, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, permanently, by the way, that doesn't go away, and then send one monster you control to the graveyard. So this does everything, right? It's an effect negate permanent. It sends a monster you control for the graveyard for effect, so anything like Root Colosse or Kaleido Heart can trigger again. You can also dodge some cute things like Valor on your Abyss Dweller and stuff like that. Lots of really insane interactions that all stem from Sulliek. And you're seeing one right here, right? I'm going Activate Infinite Impermanence. He's going Chainlink Force Sulliek to negate my Winda. Huge, by the way. He gets rid of the Winda effect. And he's able to sack off his Rhino Heart. Still resolve the effect, which is insane. That's literally everything, right? That's essentially just breaking the board. So he gets his 3 mills. I don't think he hits. He hits a Sheeran, never mind, because he's insane at the game, right? And then he goes Activate Sheeran effect. I go Chain Medora. Again, another consequence of leaving all of my shufflers in the graveyard. Put back all the cards that were triggering anything. And he goes to his end phase. So his turns are over there again. We got really lucky. Ended up having the shufflers to be able to contest his mill there. You can see the importance of having shufflers in your graveyard when your opponent doesn't. It really feels like you have a chokehold on the game. So we're going into the next turn. We're feeling really good, right? We're just trying to find a line to essentially win here. We draw. Maxi. Oh, right. That card's insane. I'll take another card off the top. Redoer picks up a spell, which is Droplet. Talked about Droplet being one of the only outs to Abyss Dweller in the format. I'll take the Droplet and I'll draw an additional card off of Redoer. Pick up a Scream off the top here. We decide to activate it. We decide to normal summon the Havness, which is already game on board here, but might as well get a few extra mills just to show off. This game was super tight here, and I'm watching this back. This is one of my first times watching back this game. And you can tell there's a lot of interaction. I don't even know if I played it 100% correctly. I think I made like 20 notes that I could have did better, right? And that's the point. That one, I felt like it was close all the way through. We just ended up being the better duelist. That was a showcase of a mirror match, which is obviously one of the pinnacles of Yu-Gi-Oh! Interaction. You get the most gameplay and the most thought-provoking plays out of every single thing. I don't believe this is a mirror match, though. I believe he's playing a Tearlament shell. We'll find out shortly, though. Why ruin the surprise? I don't think I'm going first with this hand. I am. I'm lying to you again. This hand's not great, obviously. You're looking at this, and there's not too much you can do. Scream only activates when you have another Tearlament to be able to mill. So it looks like my play is going to be Summon Diviner, and either I send a Shuffler, and I'm passing my turn there, or I'm going to send a Kelbeck, and I'm going to get things twisted, baby. And you know what? I'm feeling it, baby. We send the Kelbeck, and I'm like, you know what? Let's get milling. Let's see what's up. We mill 5 cards, and our opponent, not playing Tearlament, or it looks like he doesn't. He's playing some kind of punk variant. Mills nothing. Us, though, we hit the jackpot, right? We got 2 names, Merly, Sheeran. We're going to trigger one of those. We also got Mudora in the graveyard for protection anyways if we needed it. So now we're living large. We're looking good. We decided to Merly, and we chain this yugioh in the hand because a card was sent from our opponent's deck to the graveyard. The effects from the hand for these Ishizu cards are super underrated. You definitely want to be utilizing them to your maximum potential. They're what gets you into Dweller, and they're what's also going to piece together this board because we're going to be able to pair it with Diviner to be able to make Baron de Fleur. So we decided to bring out the yugioh from the hand with the Merly as Chain Link 1. We're going to use the Merly and the Sheeran that we milled because we're gods, and we're going to be able to make Kiklos on top of this as well. We're going to take any Tearlament card. We're going to add Merly from the deck to the hand because we don't have Merly yet. I think, did I use Merly to fuse? Was that a mistake? Yeah, we did use Merly to fuse, but it's not much mistake. I want to get the Kiklos so when I summon it from hand, I can mill 8 cards out of this. We're going to take the Diviner, and we're going to take our yugioh, that's level 4. Make the Baron de Fleur that we were talking about super early into the turn here. Should be able to insulate us from anything else. And from there, it's off to the races. We activate the Scream. We use the Kiklos to send it. Summon the Merly. Mill 8 cards off the top here. Add 3 to that because Scream adds 3. So what are we up to? 11 cards off the top of the deck. Guaranteed to hit something. Plus, note that we have the Shuffler in the graveyard too that we talked about. So if we hit anything like Kelbeck or yugioh, we already activated Kelbeck. But if we hit another yugioh, I'm more than willing to mill another 5 for my opponent. I haven't seen any Tearlament cards. So let's see what we get off of our 11 cards milled to the graveyard. Big 3. Kelbeck again. Not what we want to see. We already activated it. Keldo and Sheeran joined the fray there. Another 3. We had Scream in the graveyard too that we milled, which is great because we're going to be able to pick up our Sulliek. And we're using our Sheeran here to be able to fuse that we hit. The Fuser, we're going to be able to use it and the Kiklos that was sent to graveyard to be able to summon Rukalos. There, we're just going to take our level 2 Merly and our Kelbeck, and we're going to make Sprite Elf. Good to see you again, Elf. And we're looking good, right? We already hit Diviner for this turn. We have all of our Shufflers in the graveyard. So if our opponent's playing any Tearlaments, we're essentially winning. On this Elf, we can bring back Diviner yet again to be able to dump another Shuffler if we need it. Don't really think we need to. Or we can bring back the Merly that we just sent to be able to mill an additional 6 cards because of Scream and get more plays going on our opponent's turn. Of course, backed up with Maxi, like, I don't know how I lose with this board, right? Only thing that I could have did differently is my zone placement was a little weird. Baron should be over here because he'd also be protected from Elf, which is a big deal. Definitely want to try to be forcing your zones so you can put them under Elf. Cards like Abyss Dweller and Rukalos instantly become 20 times better when they're underneath this link too. But yeah, this board seems very unassuming, right? But it's everything. It's the bring back Merly, it's the negate with the Baron de Fleur, and it's also the negate with Rukalos plus Sulliek. You can send the Rukalos and bring it back for free, and you just negate it in effect permanently. All right, so let's see how our opponent manages it, right? We go standby phase, main phase 1. Just not going to use the Maxi. I have tons of interaction in his main phase anyways, so I'd rather guarantee I can get the value off of it. He goes summon a Diviner of his own. I am going to negate this because it does get his Shufflers, which instantly trade with mine. So I'll negate it with the Sulliek, and I'll be able to send the Rukalos. Just bring it back for free. Bloop, there you go. Back again. That's our 1 negate. But that's all right. He decides just to set 3 cards, and he's going to go to the end of his turn. I'm like, all right, play ball, bro. Before you leave your main phase, I will get back my Merly, and I will mill 6 more cards. So let's see what we end up getting off this. 3 and 3. What do we get? Everything again, right? All of our Rhino Hearts are out of the deck now. All of our Havnesses. This is now the time to start making plays. We got to put them all back. So we'll use the Havness here, and he chains an yugioh. Yugioh doesn't do anything on this board, right? Yugioh would reborn anything. I don't know any 6s he can make. I don't care if he has that. Plus, it's not beating Kaleido Heart. So we summon the Kaleido Heart. Still in the end phase, I decided to pull back one of his extra deck cards just so he doesn't get the chance to flip it. And he decides to Synchro, or Link, excuse me, into Alsa, which this is a card that I said was good against the Mirror Match because it pulls out his Shufflers. I think that's exactly what he's going to try to do here. I'll just negate it with the Rukalos and destroy the card. He gets a search. I don't care. I'm not worried about it, right? But since Rukalos also negates, it also sends a card, so we're able to send the Merly and use it to fuse too. It just ends up being a worse interaction for him. As you can see, once you get the board set up, all these costs or these upkeep maintenances for these effects, like sending a card or destroying a card, it all suddenly just benefits you, right? Celiac seems like it would be an expensive card in theory, but it ends up just being one of the best cards in the deck. From there, we make our own Kikolos. We've got the whole brigade on the board here. Just grab the Havness for next turn. Our opponent's passing. We literally just have to shift everything to attack and win the game, right? It's that easy. We're that good. Oh my god. Our opponent flips Super Poly. Pitching King of the Swamp. I now know he's playing Tearlament cards, right? Weirdly enough, why would you play King of the Swamp without this? He makes his own Kikolos with my Rukalos and Kikolos. I instantly thought this was weird because, like, I don't think you're getting another turn, right? I felt like you should have made Rukalos. You have the opportunity to make Rukalos with my Rukalos and my Kikolos. That's insane, right? But he doesn't. He goes Rukalos here. I feel like this is a mistake. Since an Aqua Monster was sent to my graveyard by a card effect, Super Poly, I'm able to activate the Kaleido Heart, and I decide to Kaleido Heart. I can deal with the Kikolos. I'm not too worried about it. I target the back row. We'll see if we can deal with it, right? Get a couple chain links going here. He decides to go for his Kikolos to add from deck to hand. I decide to activate Snow, so he can't just target it, send it to the graveyard, and special summon whatever he adds. But he has another Soliac, which is insane. Kikolos, for some reason, I put it in the zone for the elf here. This was avoidable if this was in this zone here. A really easy mistake to fix there. Oh, so here I got to negate the Soliac, because Soliac is really good for all the other reasons that we said before, right? It's going to be able to send his Kikolos to essentially dodge the Fairy Tail Snow effect. Things are going to get really scary from there. So I have to negate with Baron de Fleur, even though it's going to give him another Tearlament monster. I have to. And then we decide to go Medora, and I decide to put back his King of the Swamp. And both of my Tearlament names, actually, are like Rukalos, right? I put back Rukalos, because I plan on making Rukalos again. So Baron de Fleur pops the Soliac, able to stop that, right? Snow's going to flip down the Kikolos. And then Kikolos is going to be able to pick. How did he mill these cards, bro? Man, this is where things get lost because I don't know what's going on. For the resolution of Kikolos, rather than adding the card to the hand, you can totally send it to the graveyard, which is exactly what he does here with the Kikolos. He decides to dump a Merly to be able to use it to fuse, which is really good because, you know, Kikolos is going to get flip face down. Doesn't really matter when you can still fuse with it in Merly, right? You go activate the Snow here. He changed the Merly. He's going to get things rolling. We were lucky enough to hit a Merly ourselves, too, though. He decides to chain his Soliac that also hit the graveyard, and we decide to Keldeo, hopefully stymie his plays, put his own stuff back. It resolves, because the shufflers are amazing. Put everything back. Soliac picks up a Havness for him if we activate any monster effects on the field. And then our own Merly gets to be able to resolve here. We put back 2, and we make the Rukalos yet again. This was the first game I think I saved, because this is the first game that I really utilized my own shufflers to be able to put back my own cards. The shufflers are great because they can put back anything. But in the right matchup, you can start putting back your own cards that are extremely important. The one-ofs, like Paralino, cards like Super Poly, especially Instant Fusion and stuff like that. You can start putting these cards back into your already thinned-out deck, so you're more likely to see them, or you're likely to mill them again, or you're likely to go into them again, right? So we summon back the Rukalos. Baron de Fleur here is in the standby phase. It's already used as negate, so I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I'll bring something back. He has Havness in hand. I'll negate it with Rukalos, and I'll destroy the card. This is an oversight. I think I already have a billion other shufflers in the graveyard, though, so this doesn't matter. It's going to get sent to the graveyard and destroyed. We'll trade this guy out for Diviner again, which is going to get us another shuffler in case I needed it. Rukalos comes back. Our opponent goes Havness, and then I have Medora in the graveyard to be able to meet with us, I believe. Unless it resolves. I guess it resolves, right? Okay, well. He just... Something new every day, man. There's always something going on. Whew, okay, our opponent's going to activate the Havness that he's going to be able to make Stapelia, right? Another scenario, he could have made Rukalos, just allergic to Rukalos, I guess. We're going to make Stapelia. We're going to bring back our own Rukalos. And then Diviner's going to be able to dump another Shuffler to the graveyard. He decides to go Stapelia here because he knows the Baron de Fleur's back into the extra deck. I'm going to just be able to use this in the Snow to be able to make it, which is instantly just contest this. So he has to negate it. He has to, right? So he uses that on a Prep Plane counter there. I just go Elf. I just like, okay, I'll bring back the Herald. Because why not? I'm baller like that. And then I make a Nightmare Unicorn. I'm like, I'm going to clear this thing, and I'm just going to shift everything to attack, and I'm going to win the game. Boom. Put it to attack, and then we lose due to time limit. Awesome, right? Great game, right? This is one of those games where I feel like it was earlier on with me learning and stuff like that. I didn't get enough optimal time to think. Felt like there was a couple misplays on either side of the table here, but we were able to win this one in theory. with, proper time limit. Literally just had to go to the battle phase there. But this is an important point to bring up, like, is there enough time to play your matches? And I think so, right? Like I said, the games are really snappy. You just have to understand what interactions to be able to use. The only problem is being able to study your opponent's resources is just as important as being able to understand what you have yourself. Sometimes you just don't get enough time to be able to see what's in your opponent's graveyard. Like sometimes your opponent's activating these Tearlament effects and you have shufflers and you want to be like, well, maybe there's something else in there that I can put back that might be worse for them to draw, but you just don't have the time to look at it. You just have to click cards and go. I did wish I had a little bit more time in there, but when you're in a tournament setting and you can set the clocks to long, there's more than enough time to play these games. I'm confident of it. Casualty of the 300-second timer. Bump it to 400. It's good. And then for our last game, let me show you guys a fun one just to show you. All right, this game, obviously, am I going first again? I don't even remember. Oh, God. Okay, I'm going second, and I have an infinite impermanence in hand. That's it. Luckily for our opponent, though, they go Summon Merly, mill 3, hit Rhinoheart, and they got to pass. A few things this tells me. My opponent would instantly activate Rhinoheart if they had any other Tearlament name in their hand, any card, because you can summon Rhinoheart, dump, and then send that card. He doesn't have any Tearlaments because he didn't trigger the effect, so he's looking a little rough. Maybe as rough as me, right? We don't decide to infinite impermanence the Merly because we can hit the Kikalos when that does come out, and that uses one of his fusers for his turn. So obviously this was the right decision. We're looking great, right? He's passing with Merly, nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll draw for turn, and he hits us with the maximum C. Obviously my hand's not ridiculous. It's not going to pop the fuck off here, but this is an important game to show the power of max C and being able to understand what to do to beat your opponent in the minimum amount of summons possible. So seeing max C come down, my first thing is I got to make Dweller, right? If I can make Dweller, I can live through any Tearlament board guaranteed. And I can do it by only giving my opponent 2 cards off max C, just simply by doing the play that I'll show you. So you go standby main. I'm deciding to go Keldo. Keldo is insane because you can pitch any of the shufflers or the Kelbeck, and you get to search a different one. So I just grab the Kelbeck because it also is a hand trap. Great card. Normal summon Ariel. We go battle phase. Get some damage in. I think I could have... No, I couldn't have did more if this was Dwell. And then we make Abyss Dweller here. Give our opponents 2 cards. He's on a fresh hand of 6, drawing into his turn. We set Celiac Imperm. Let's see how we do, right? Draw for turn. In the draw phase, we are going to activate the Abyss Dweller, getting rid of the Keldo into the graveyard. We now have both shufflers. It's probably better to actually just detach the Ariel because I already have a shuffler in the graveyard. Not like our opponent's going to be shuffling anything anyways because he's going to be under Abyss Dweller. And if he were to mill a couple shufflers, one shuffler normally contests whatever he mills. But this is fine. This is fine, right? We have both of them in the graveyard. We're totally decimating our opponent. He's under Abyss Dweller. What's his move? He's going to normal summon Rhinoheart, and I don't think he used the effect. Or did he? I don't even know. No, he did use the effect. He normal... What the fuck is going on? Okay, so he did use summon Rhinoheart, and because he's under Abyss Dweller, no reason to activate it. So then he decides to go activate Sheeran from the hand, chain Heartbeat. I do not see Heartbeat in a lot of these decks, but I understand if you want to play it on ladder to be able to outspell traps. I have been floodgated out of the game, but when you're at the top tables, most people are going to play fair. So he decides to go Sheeran, chain Heartbeat, right? And he targets my infinite impermanence. I'm a little upset. I'd like to keep the card, but we'll infip the Rhinoheart, just to lock out the middle zone. It is the best we can do. Our opponent decides to summon the Sheeran here, mill 3 cards. Does not matter what our opponent mills, even if they hit all the shufflers, that's great. From here, my opponent has a clear line to be able to make their own Abyss Dweller, which can trade with mine, which I don't really want to happen. So I decide to activate Kelbeck to bounce back my opponent's 4. He's already normal summoned for the turn, and he's under Abyss Dweller. If I just prevent him from finding a way to be able to out my Abyss Dweller, I all of a sudden win the game. So I decided to summon the Kelbeck, bounce Sheeran back to hand, and this was super unfortunate for him. He activates Triple Tactics Talent, which would have been another, rank 4, because he just takes my Kelbeck. But look at the zone, he put it in, what a moron! Hey, you just gotta laugh at the opponent, take control. You wish, bro. I felt like this game actually would have been losable 100% if he would have taken our monster. Tons of things you can do. You can just take our Kelbeck, and then from there you can make another Abyss Dweller, and you can out my Abyss Dweller. You can take my Abyss Dweller and just attack and then make Zeus. Tons of options there. I feel like that one might have been a loss, but that's a little bit of show under Max C what to do. I talked a lot today. I'm not going to lie to you guys. There might be an information overload. There's a lot going on. If you hate the Tearlament format and you're a fan of this channel, I'm sorry. You're going to learn to love it. You're going to learn to love it because that's what I've been doing, man. I've been having a great time sort of learning the ins and outs of the formats. I want to challenge all my friends. I want to see how they do against me for the Tearlament mirror, It's the best showcase of skill. And you know what? I don't think I'm that bad at the game. I feel like I can definitely kick some teeth in with this. I have a lot of other replays to show you guys, but I'm just going to start with those 3 today. This is sort of the introductory to the Tearlament saga that you'll see here. I'll start to save the very best replays, and we'll go over them together in videos here. I feel like there's a lot to learn about, and I'm excited to just crack open the books and get studying. These were all retroactively, but if you guys want to see sort of a replay in real time where we kind of just play the game out, let me know. I can definitely throw something like that together. It'd be cool, interesting to watch, because I definitely think, looking back at the games retrospectively, you're definitely thinking a different way than in the moment. Want to just catch them all live anyways, you can do that at twitch.tv/nimnim. I'm live just about every other day, and we've been grinding nothing but this deck. We are Diamond 1, bro. I absolutely steamrolled the ladder and just made it to D1, because I'm like that. Lots to learn. I hope you're excited as I am to figure it out.